Welcome back, everybody. Nick Subich here, episode 14 of Discipline to Win podcast. So we're doing a special bonus episode of Discipline to Win, so something a little bit different for everybody, but I think everybody will really enjoy it. Today you're going to be following along with me and my team as we head down to my old high school. It's extremely important to me to stay connected to my roots, where I've come from, and I'm really just passionate about helping the kids that were sitting in the same seats I was from my hometown, who really don't know where to turn to possibly get out of the situation that they're in. I want them to really know that they have a great future ahead of them and that there's opportunities that they're endless if they'll just work hard for what they want. So get ready, follow along with us as we spend a day at Greater Johnstown High School. So we started the day early, got on the road at 5 o'clock. I like to always hire someone to drive so we could be focused on our work. Already taking calls, and I never go anywhere without Gabby, my chief of staff, right by my side, answering emails, coordinating everything, and running the business behind the scenes.
You know, that's risky, or that's a lot of risk, or that's risky. Life was risky the day you were born. Nobody gets out alive. You know what I mean? It's nothing but risk is life as a whole. Nobody gets out alive, literally.
First thing when we got to the school was awesome. We were greeted by a couple of my old teachers that were big mentors in my life.
Thanks for having us. Anytime, man. You know that. Got you all loaded up. I got a whole classroom of kids waiting for you.
And really, I wanted to get a pulse for what the kids are going through today. Getting to talk to hundreds of new faces and just telling them my life story, I was reminded of how I was once right where they were. Sat in the same chairs, had the same conversations with my teachers, and I see so much of myself in so many of these young kids. And I really want to be someone they can look up to and rely on and count on, because like I say all the time, you just need somebody that cares about you, and you can take care of the rest when it comes to being successful.
Come on in, guys. Come on, come sit down. I just want you to listen. I want you to put your cell phones away, and I'm not going to take a lot of time away from him speaking, but this is a golden opportunity for you to ask questions. Why? Because he was sitting where you were at not too long ago. So he is very, very successful. He knows what it takes to be successful, and he's an advocate for not only Greater Johnstown High School, but for our community. So I feel that having this opportunity to listen what this young man has to say is more important, like in all honesty. First of all, his name is Nick Subich, and he is a former Greater Johnstown graduate. He graduated in 2013, and he played football, and I actually coached him in basketball. And I just want to tell just a little story since I have more time. So I listened to him last period. I wasn't able to hear him first period, and he was telling his life story, which is amazing. Like, I can't be any happier. But when he played basketball for me, he had a role. His role was that, not to score points, and the same thing with him, and that's kind of like how his life has been going. He used that role, he knows what his role, and he surrounded himself with good people. And that's what I like, is because I see a lot of myself in him, what he's telling, and I love it. Because people, a lot of times when you go to places, whenever they hear Johnstown, and you guys can even vouch for it to play sports and things like that, they go like to give you this. And I'm like, well, what's that about? Now I'm like puffing up. It's like you're like talking smack about Johnstown. And it's like, I don't like that. Because I will put my students, meaning you, up against anybody, anywhere, anytime. All that it is determination. So, you know, like, how bad do you want something? Do you want it bad enough? Are you going to put forth the time like he did? He's going to explain. You know, so you don't have to be the smartest. He's able to read people. He's able to read the room. He's going to get into that. So without further ado, I don't want to take time away from him. I just want you to listen to his story. He's not going to take a real long time to tell it. He's able to tell you what you need to look for, what you need to do, because all of you can be successful if you want to. So without further ado, Mr. Nick Subich.
Thank you to you guys for doing everything you do and for making a good impact on all of you guys. So we only got a half hour, so I'm going to try to do just 15 minutes real quick, telling you my story. You know, my life really started here in Johnstown, born in the West End. My parents had me at 18 years old. You all know what that looks like when people have kids 18, 17, 16 years old. It's extremely difficult to raise a family and to just make it and survive. Bounced around, probably lived in 15 different houses throughout the city. The West End, lived on Duell Street, Cook Street, Spring Street, Chandler Avenue, Linden Avenue. You guys probably know a lot of these streets and places. That's where I live. So, beginning of my life, was just survival. I'm sure a lot of you get all these people in and out of your life, and different step parents and things like that. step siblings, people that are now in your circle that weren't in your circle, and a lot of turmoil in my youth, a lot of things that happened in my childhood that me as a grown man with my own family now would never want for my family. There's different things though that you can do to control those things. So with me, it was abusive step parents, step siblings, and my whole childhood growing up when I was going through those turbulent times and going through that trauma, I was like, never me. I'm never going to treat a child like that. I'm never going to treat a woman like that. Like, no, like that's not happening. So now here I am a grown man, and I've been married 8 years. I've got a 3-year-old boy, my own son, and that guides me every day to where I'm like, nope, no thanks. I'm going to be the best man I can be and treat them how I know people should be treated. So just because you've had bad examples in life, I look at bad examples just as good examples, if not better, because it's more traumatic, it's more emotional, and if you attach more to that, like, man, that sucks. Like, I'm not ever going to be that. Don't take that as normal, because I'm here to tell you it's not. It's not normal to go through that type of situation. It's normal for people to be kind and love each other and have conversations without lashing out and all those things. So if you take anything out of this today, treat people that way, because you all control that. So
Absolutely.
Anyway, that was my childhood at Johnstown, probably very similar to a lot of yours. But I had a few people in my life, despite the bad, that cared to me. A lot of them were here in these walls. One of them is in the back of this room. And I used sports. I know you guys basketball team. Congrats on D6. When I was playing basketball, even though I was just a mauler, was not a scorer. I would take people out when they needed taken out. I was good for about a putback, rebound, and maybe 1 out of my two foul shots a game, and I was good for 5 fouls a game. But sophomore, junior, and senior year, we won D6 all 3 years. And in football, we won D6 sophomore and junior year. Football was my sport. Football started all 3 years, sophomore, junior, senior year, as a center and middle linebacker. And I got multiple scholarship offers for football as a center. Went to Lock Haven University. When you see everybody on signing day and it's on the news and I looked up to all those people, you think, wow, they made it, they're getting out. But in reality, unless you're going to a Division I school, your scholarship is minimal. So got there my freshman year, and really quickly noticed it was very different than high school. High school, like, you guys, like, on the same team, you're like brothers. You get to college, like, nobody cares about you. Like, it's cutthroat. Let's say you're a receiver and you're coming into the receiver room as a freshman. Most dudes, especially at the D2 level where, people are struggling to survive. Like D1, like, everyone's pretty much on a full ride, so it's not as much competition. But at D2 and D3, like, you're basically competing like your life depends on it, trying to get more scholarship money, trying to get that next opportunity. So me, I came in as the freshman center, and the other center was a rising senior and like 3-year starter. So you think like he wants to lose his scholarship to the new freshman? Hell no. So he put nothing into me, and like it's the same way at every position. And then also I realized like this $2,000 isn't paying for anything, and I was struggling to figure out how I was going to pay for my next year's schooling. College was really sort of my forging ground to where for the first time in my life, I wasn't at the mercy of everybody in my family. I could now, separate myself. I wanted to get away, from that situation and be my own man. And, it's fight or flight. You're either going to survive or you don't. And, I fought to survive through college. I had to do something different. So I joined the Army Reserve Officer Training Corps and got a full scholarship for tuition for the rest of my school. And the only requirement there is you commission as an Army officer post-graduation, and you either go active duty Army or in the National Guard in the Army. I'm currently still in the National Guard today. I'm an Army officer, and I'm a captain. My company is in Williamsport, PA, where I'm the company commander there. I have 170 soldiers that I care for there 50 days out of the year. We occasionally mobilize either in the state for state emergencies or externally. Went to Korea in 2016 with the Army. The Army's been great as far as leadership development, skills, all those different things. By the time I graduated college, had a full-time job. I was working full-time as an administrative manager at a telecommunications company called Cable Services Company. Got a job there like my junior year as an HR assistant. And then I started to notice that it was a sleepy company, meaning that people weren't very motivated or excited or energetic. It was like, everyone started at 7, they were in at 7:01. The day was over at 4 or 3. People were out of their office at 2:59, heading to the parking lot. So I'm like, I'm going to be the opposite of that. So I noticed, okay, the CEO walks down my hall every single day, and I know he's always here before I'm here. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start trying to get here earlier and figure out when this dude gets in the building. So eventually I got to the point where I knew I had to get into work at like 5:15 or 5:30 to get there before the CEO did. And the very first day, he's walking down the hall, he's got his newspaper, he's got his coffee, and he like stops and sees my light on in my office and sees me in there, and he's like, what are you doing here? And I told him, I was like, well, I wanted to figure out when you get here, and now I know, and if you've got time, I want to ask you a whole lot about the company. And I'd never talked with this guy. This was like a 120 employee company. So decent sized company, but I've never talked to him, never interacted with him. He knew who I was, probably that I was like filled a role, but he didn't know who I was as a person. And from that day on, he started bringing 2 coffees and 2 newspapers. And because I took time to care about his organization that he worked for 30 years to build, he was going to give that time back to me. So he started mentoring me every day in the morning. We'd talk about business, life, family, the whole 9 yards from 5:30 to 6:30. And by the time I was going into my senior year, an opportunity came up to be a manager of all of the office staff, which was like 12 or 13 people. And he was like, hey Nick, I want you to post an ad. We need to fill this job. I want you to interview people and then tell me who we should hire. I'm interviewing people with MBAs, master's degrees, people that are in their 50s. They've worked for 25 years in management. And at the end, I bring him back my report. His name was Ken. I'm like, hey, Ken, I think we should hire, I don't remember his name, John. He's got an MBA from whatever college. He's managed for this long, da-da-da-da-da. And he's like, you really think we should hire him? I'm like, yeah, I think he's the right guy. He's like, well, I think you're the right guy. And he said, so do you want the job? And I was like, well, I'm still a full-time college student. I'm like, well, I have to be in and out twice a day to go to class. He's like, that works with me. And I'm like, awesome, I'm in. He's like, well, what do you want paid? And I'm like, well, I had the job listed for this. He's like, perfect, that's your salary. So my salary is like $62,000 that I was making when I was a senior in college, which was really comfortable when you're in college and have like very, very little bills. So by the time I graduated college, had my full-time job, was an officer in the Army, National Guard, was married, had my life built in Central PA, what I thought my life was going to look like. I was very happy. I was living a normal life. Had a dog. We lived in a house. Had nice cars, and could go out to eat whenever we wanted. And I'm like, wow, this is great. Life's great. And then my wife's like, hey, I want to move closer to home. We're both from Johnstown. So I had to start looking for a job again and start all over. And we ended up landing around Pittsburgh, and I had to find a new job. And I took a chance on a small organization. There's 2 people, half my salary, making $30,000 to learn to be a financial advisor. Had to get licensed, do all these additional tests and education, and gain some experience from 2018 through 2019. By the end of 2019, the owner of the business at that time said, hey, I'm in my 60s, I need to retire. Where you want to buy my business from me? I was like, yes, absolutely, but I had no money. So I'm going to give you free chicken for the rest of your life. You can buy anything, business, house, car, building, this table, with no money. You can promise to pay somebody for it at a certain time and duration. It's called a promissory note. So what I did, the guy was like, hey, I'll sell you my business for $800,000. And that worked out to be $11,658 a month for 5 years in exchange for owning the business. And I had no ability to pay $11,658 a month, but I believed in myself that I was going to take the business that he had and turn it into something more and be able to do that. Because I had really no choices at that point anyway. I have nothing. I was getting 7-8 calls from debt collectors a month. I sold that month I met somebody in the Dick's Sporting Goods parking lot and sold my Yeti cooler to pay my electricity bill that month for like $200. So excuse my language, but I was in piss at that point and had no other options really. So I had to take the opportunity because in my mind it was the only way to get out of that. So went from being in that horrible financial condition in December of 19 to January of 2020. I flipped the switch, started working 100 hours a week, and in that month in January of 2020, I made personally $60,000 that month. So that month I paid off all my credit card debt, paid off all the debt collectors, and that was really the start of my future. That's when I got back to zero from negative $50,000. Through no other way of being different, traveling around the country, being willing to do anything. If I was talking to a customer, it'd be a Friday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He'd be like, hey, can you come see me? I'm really nervous to retire again. We manage people's retirement money. I'm really nervous. And I'd see my calendar's booked for the next week. Monday, he wanted to meet Monday, like 2 hours away from my office. My last meeting Monday at Pittsburgh, it's over at 7. I was like, Dave, I could be at your kitchen Monday night at 9 p.m. He said, see you there, click. So I got in my car at the end of the day Monday, drove, met with the man from like 9 p.m. to midnight at his house. He was so impressed, he invested $1 million with me, and I continued to deliver for him. And since that was like summer of 2020 to now, I've probably gotten hundreds of referrals that have stemmed from that one relationship where I was willing to be different. Anytime you're working a job, it's not just a job. It could be a start of something you have no idea what's going on. So if I would have thought of it as a job and been like, hey, sorry, Dave, I got to go home and watch Netflix Monday. My wife wants me home, or whatever. I got an opening in 2 weeks, but you got to come drive to me. Like a normal person would have thought through that. Who knows if I'd be here today? But that was the start that really sprung the business taking off. So in 2020, tripled the business in the first year through COVID. Flipped the switch, changed my life. Started working 80-hour weeks. And what the business is we manage assets for people that are retiring or getting ready to retire. At that point in 2020, we started off with the company's revenues of $300,000. The whole way from 2020 to now, we've grown revenues to $15 million this year. Started off where it was, bringing in $20,000 a month when I bought the company. Now the company's bringing in over $1 million a month. After a while, I'm working 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week, 110 hours a week. At this point, I'm married and I got a son. And again, put you on some more game. A lot of you are going to get married, you're going to have kids. If you're not in their lives, your spouse is not going to be too happy. Probably not going to be happy, and there's probably going to be better options for your spouse out there. Don't matter how, at this point, I'm making $100,000 a month personally. So I'm thinking I'm giving my family everything, but I was actually giving them nothing. They didn't see me. I was like an enigma. I'd get home at midnight, sleep for 5 hours, and I'd be scooted back out at 6 a.m. Everyone's asleep. They have no interaction with me. So at that point, my wife's I want to go back to being poor. And I never thought in my life, I spent 22 years being poor. So it was something to where, how could someone think this way? But there is more to life than, just money. So it came at a big cost, a lot of sacrifice. I kind of speed up 4 years, but it felt like a lifetime because I put, everything on the line. Almost lost my family along the way. Created a lot of issues with my wife, with my son, almost got divorced, and realized hey, it doesn't matter how much money you have if you're not present in your family's life. It doesn't mean anything. Money's useless at that point. So I had to start letting go of things that I was doing and bringing people onto the team to start doing those things and amplifying the amount of output we had. And as soon as I started doing that and I tried to work on the business instead of in the business, things just absolutely exploded at that point. So that was when I realized that. It was 2022, early 2023. At that point we had still probably only 6 or 7 employees. And today we've got 30 employees. And it was just a total mindset switch. And started building out my team and finding people smarter than me. I was not the brightest kid. I wasn't the most talented kid. I just outworked everybody. My college GPA was 2.7. Wasn't a great student. Just always wanted more in life and would outwork anybody and just worked for it all. And now I get lots of smart people around me, and it's fantastic. So know that you have the most valuable thing you need is your brain. If you're not physically gifted, who cares? You've got your brain. If you're not, the smartest person in the world, who cares? You've got your work ethic. You can make up for that in a million other ways. Be the first person at whatever your organization is and be the last one to leave. Outwork everybody. You can make up for any shortfall with work ethic, and everyone can control that. You can work every hour of the day, and people are going to be like, wow, this person is an absolute savage. Just do more than everybody else. Like me, I had no talent, was not the smartest person. High school I did well, but I didn't have to try hard. College I finished with a 2.7, And that doesn't matter, like none of that matters. What matters is what you can control, which is your energy, your passion, your attitude, and how you want to influence people. You would never know, but I left DC yesterday morning at 5 a.m., flew to Connecticut, had a lunch meeting in Connecticut, got back to the airport, which was like 2 hours from the airport, got back to the airport in Connecticut, flew back to DC, landed in DC around like 7:30, drove 4 hours back home to Pittsburgh last night, got to my house at midnight. By the time I got prepared for today, got everything in order, got to sleep at 1, got up this morning at 5 a.m., got ready for the day, got to my office, got my team, and then got here by 7:30. And you'd never know that I'm on 4 hours of sleep last night, and then the night before that I was on 3 hours of sleep, and I'm controlling what I can control, and I'm passionate, and I'm energetic, and you'd never know that I'm running on 12 hours of sleep from the last 3 days. And I can tell you, and the same with my team, because they were right with me last night, I can tell you I am sure they were not motivated to come here today, but everyone was disciplined and believed in the purpose of coming here today, which is, I want to be an advocate for all of you and just sort of be that example of all the different routes that are so non-traditional you can take to being successful. So I'd say discipline, biggest, most important attribute you can have in any career, because motivation literally, motivation comes in waves, but it's not going to be there every day, especially when you're running short, on time, on sleep, really. So what I want to really get out of the rest of this talk today is really hear from you all. What are things you're interested in? What are things you have questions about? Give your questions on, what are the things that you want a real raw answer to?
How do you find out somebody's trustworthy? It's a big deal.
Yeah, so you don't know right away. So people reveal themselves. So when I first started doing deals, it was like, again, I'm still 29, I'm figuring life out every day. But when I first started doing deals, I put all the numbers up front and the business, and that's all I cared about, and I really didn't focus much on getting to know the person. And I did a deal with a guy who up front was, made an offer on the business before meeting him in person or really getting to know him well or anything like that. And then he revealed himself to be an absolute nightmare, horrible person. I've switched everything in how I do business now. So now before I'll do any deal with anybody or talk any numbers, when I'm on the phone, I say, listen, we've got to sit down, break bread together, and I've got to get to know who you are before we talk about a single number. We aren't a match ethically, morally, aren't going to happen. So now wherever they are, Seattle, that's what I was doing in Connecticut yesterday, was breaking bread with a guy to try to feel him out on who he is. And then you've got to eventually trust your gut and make a gut call. I can say that, whenever people are trying to rush things, that definitely makes me not trust someone. The little limited time offer deal. People that are genuine and legit, they're like me. They believe in themselves and they're like, hey, I'm not going anywhere, I'll be here. I can tell you, people on my team is where it's been extremely hard to trust. To where you think you know somebody and they, again, reveal who they truly are. This is my company's very different in how I do things. I use a lot of the military in my company, but I think you show who people are through shared hardship. In the Army or the military, they simulate that through very hard physical things. Football, basketball, soccer, any sport, that's exposed through physical things. Whenever you're going through an event together with a team physically, you're going to see if someone quits on themselves, if they quit on you, if their attitude turns bad, they start mother effing everything in the situation. So with us at my company at YTS, I bring in a personal trainer once a quarter. I take the whole company out either to a gym or on the football field, and I have the personal trainer put us through a 2-hour workout. I got employees puking all over the place. I've got people completely drenched in sweat, and very quickly people emerge. You'll see people, you'll see the sidebars where, they're saying, screw this is stupid, da-da-da-da-da. Or, you see people taking shortcuts to where if we're doing burpees or push-ups, you'll see them laying on the ground, they're not really doing anything. And you see all of those things very quickly through physical exercise. And then you see the leaders and the people you can trust. People that are helping carry people to finish them, the people that are picking everybody up and are positive and they're pushing themselves. So I think shared hardship is one of the only ways you'll know if you can really count or rely on somebody. And that's a way that I try to accelerate that process of revealing if people are legitimate or not. My new financial advisors that come work for me, we did one where I took a guy, I told him it was an unknown distance run. We ran 4 miles. I had Gabby in the car at the end of the trail. He's like, oh, awesome. We're done. He's sort of like, stretching and grabs a water and everything like that and thinks that Gabby's taking us back to the office. and Gabby popped the trunk, and I pulled a 50-pound sandbag out of the back of the trunk of the Escalade and threw it on his shoulders and was like, let's go. We're just at the halfway point. And that guy's name is Brody. He did not quit. He pushed himself the entire way. That was the most he ever ran in his life. He ran 8 miles with me. 4 miles with no weight, 4 miles with a 50-pound sandbag on his back. And Brody now is at the office every single day from 6:30 to 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. I know that I can count and rely on Brody. I do things different, but I don't have time to waste of showing their true self over 2 years. So I accelerate it with physical fitness. And like, let's say Brody's like throwing up, and he's refusing to quit. He's going at mile 3. We're not going to go the 8 miles. I know what I know then, that he's willing to push until he can't go any further. So I'm not trying to kill anybody, but that's just a way that I can see if people are legitimate or not, is how hard will they push themselves. And just like Mr. McKessick stood up here and said, he'll take any one of you any day, any time against any other school, I feel the same way about my team, to where I know that we'll take down any other company, because I can tell you no companies are doing anything like that. So I know what my people are about. Great question.
What was your, in your opinion, your most impactful experience on others while doing everything?
Like on how I've impacted people?
Yeah.
Oh, it's for sure, without a doubt, the people in my company. So there's nobody in my company that grew up with a silver spoon either. And it's not like I purposely tried to hire people that, haven't come from money, but I could say 90% of the people in my company, when I found them, were, they had GEDs, no degree, bartenders. My business partner now, who's my VP of operations, I hired him 3 years ago because he went to the same barber as me and asked my barber, hey, I'm looking for a job. And my barber's like, oh, you got to talk to Nick. And me and him had dinner. I gave him a chance. He gave me everything, which is, 100 hours a week. And in his first year working for me, I think he made 220 grand. This year, he'll probably make $1.2 million. And he was a stranger to me in January of 2022. So, that is, I get so much enjoyment out of that, and seeing people develop and seeing people grow, way more than making my next $1 million. To me now, it's all about developing other people and seeing others grow, and that fulfillment you get from giving back is more than any amount of money you can make. When you after a while, there's not much more to buy. What's another watch, or what's another house, or short of your own plane. But even once you get the plane, it's like a plane. You know what I mean? Or a boat. So the money stuff is finite, but how you can impact other people is forever. That's indefinite. You can impact an unlimited amount of people. So now, again, that's why I'm here today. I'm not making money to be here today. When normally I'm making tens of thousands of dollars a day. So this to me was important, which is why I'm here despite 4 hours of sleep last night, to make sure that I show up for you guys, because you need people in your life that are going to show up when they say they show up. So to me, this is everything to me, being able to impact other people. Yeah.
Is there any way I could work for you or something?
So, anyone in this room know Austin Barber? So, Austin is going to come work for me. So, Gabby, who just promoted to chief of staff, she was my executive assistant. So, Austin graduated here. He just graduated college last year, so maybe 5 years ago. So, you guys probably wouldn't have known him. But he's, for a year and a half, has been asking me the same question: can I come work for you? And I finally had an opportunity, and I'm giving him that shot. So before you leave, take this card from me and shoot me an email, so we have your email. And I'll always keep, what's your name?
Amon.
Amon, awesome, Amon. I love that. Being bold and taking any opportunity like that is half the battle in life. So thank you, Amon. How old are you, Amon?
14.
14, that's freaking awesome, man. Yeah, that's awesome.
What was the biggest turnaround point in your life? You're like, all right, I'm starting to do something now, and it's starting to show. What was that point?
It was when I was making money without having to make it myself, and that was a pivotal moment to where my mind got unlocked to where wow, now it's gonna be scalable and gonna be big. Because when you're doing everything yourself, anything can happen. A truck can come, hit your leg. If I'm at home laid up in a cast, how am I gonna go and close deals and win over people's hearts and minds? So if you're thinking about a job, or you're thinking about a business, one that is definitely scalable to where you can make money, from like literally not doing anything. Like right now I've got all these locations. Like I don't work with clients anymore. I run the organization and, bring in and buy other businesses and bring them in. I've got, tens of people working with clients that are making, at the end of the day, the firm, but ultimately me money. So that was a turning point for me when I was able to work on the business instead of working in the business. So like if anyone in here is entrepreneurial, which you can tell I am, try to not think of like, how can I create a job for myself, but how can I create a job for others that will pay me, if that makes sense. Yeah?
Did you know what you were going to do after high school?
No idea. I had no idea. I went to college for criminal justice, and it was just like, I wanted it, like, I thought everyone says it was like an easy degree, so I just wanted an easy degree. I wanted to be a gym teacher, then I wanted to be like a math teacher, then I wanted to like be like a business manager at a company. Then I was really gung-ho about the Army once I joined the Army. And then I would realize like, wait, I can do the Army plus then I could go and be in business. And like, I wasn't like a born entrepreneur. It was once I sort of unlocked that part of my brain and figured out like, wow, I can do this. Whatever you might be passionate about or think you're good at, find somebody that's in their 50s or 60s doing that. Whether it's baking cupcakes, whether it's a barber. The people that are in their 50s and 60s, like, if you think they're old heads or they don't know or whatever, they probably have some good ideas, but you can obviously make them better. That's called being an entrepreneur. Like, add the energy and the passion and the motivation, because they kind of lost that, because they've been doing it for, 30 or 40 years. Yeah.
Were you like big on reading? Like, did you have to, like, how'd you get your knowledge you have? Like, what did you?
Figuring it out.
Yeah.
Was not big on reading. So there's a lot of successful people that are going to say, read these 10 books. That might work for some people, but I was the type of learner in school where I had to like do it. You know what I mean? And where people had to show me. Probably not the best thing to tell you guys since you're sitting in high school, but I was not the guy that was walking around with a ton of books. I was the one that wanted to sit down and just like tell me how you do all this and explain all of this to me. So that's just how I learned. So some people may read it from books, but really the biggest thing that I did was I would take immediate action. And we do that every day. And I'll look at Gabby and I'll be like, we need to move on this immediately. Like, how do we take like action like today? That might work for some people, it works for me, it might not work for others, but you definitely don't need to keep your head in a book to be ultra successful for sure. Yeah. All right, there we go. Fire off your college questions. What questions do you have about college? Yeah.
What are the dorms like?
Yeah, so it depends on the university. So I went to Lock Haven University, it's a state school, and I was in like the oldest dorm possible. So me and my roommate, like it's just one room, and you got like shared bathroom, everything like that, but you got like TV and stuff, and we were playing football, so we were fed and everything like that. But yeah, the dorms, it depends on the university. Bigger schools will have nicer dorms, smaller schools, they'll be a little bit older, but it's no different than whatever your situation looks like at home. You know what I mean? If you're sharing a room with a brother or a sister or whatever, it's just normal to share a room with somebody in school. And then really quickly, by like the middle of my sophomore year, I moved out and got an apartment on my own. I think for like $500 a month or something like that. Yeah, but it's okay. You got to learn to like live with other people, which is tough. You know what I mean? How people not cleaning up after themselves and stuff like that. So again, it's putting you outside your comfort zone, which is good. Yeah.
Who your best moment?
What's that?
What were your best moments?
When I finished, that's definitely a given. I would say that, so college wasn't like completely smooth for me. So I went on academic probation in college. So there was a semester in college that I had like, a D, an F, a D and like a B or something like that. So I temporarily lost my scholarship from the Army, and I would say that probably my best moment was when I buckled down the next semester and elevated my life to the next level, to where I sort of lied to myself and said, well, you're working this full-time job, you don't have time to study and get good grades at the same time, but I buckled down and had to get out of that sort of academic probationary point. So proving to myself that I could sort of do both and be successful at school and working at the same time was probably my proudest moment. Yeah. It's different when you're going, somewhere else where you don't know anybody, for sure. You always wonder how it's going to be and how are the professors going to be and things like that. The difference with like college classes versus high school classes are in college, you're going to be with 100 or 200 people in the room instead of maybe 30 or 40 or 20 like you're used to at high school. So you don't have as much one-on-one with the professors. But all the professors have what they call office hours, where if you need extra help, they have to make themselves available so you can go meet with them one-on-one. I could say that as far as difficulty, I took like AP classes here at Johnstown that were harder than pretty much any college class I had. Now I wasn't in a super hard major. Business finance, again, is like broad topics and economic topics. It's not like I would say as hard as some other majors, but I wasn't a great college student. I think my GPA was somewhere between 2.7 and 3.0. All of the kids in my business classes that had 4.0s, aren't really doing really much with their life at all. I think that if you can get between a 2.5 and a 3.0 in college, and you can also maintain a part-time job or be in a club or a volunteer organization or a sports team or anything like that, me now as an employer would much rather have a 2.5 to 3.0 student that showed they were capable of doing more than one thing at one time than someone that just got a 4.0 and that's all they did. Because anyone can lock themselves in a room and study for 10 hours a day, but it takes character for someone to be able to be responsible for multiple things at one time. So if you're like, who here is seniors in this room? Okay, so a few of you, but then we got juniors and sophomores also, freshmen, 8th graders. For all of you that aren't seniors, and even though those of you that are seniors, the more clubs and volunteering and
coming back to my roots, to where everything started long time ago, I think is healthy for everybody to do. You get to reflect on where you've been, where you're at, and where you're going. You got to make sure you never lose sight of who you were, who you are, but always stay focused on who you're trying to be.
I'm 29. You guys being 16, 17, 18, you've got another decade on me. I hope you guys pass me. That's why I'm here, because nobody told me half of this stuff. I learned it the hard way. So chase me, pass me, please. I would love to see that. You just got to take action. Just start today. You get an idea, boom, do it. Just start. You're not going to know what you're doing. So just start, whatever it is, and you'll figure it out along the way. And if you don't, guess what? Then you're 20. You start again, you start again, and you start again. That's life. But go out and do good things. Thank you. Thank you.
Speaking to the students, there were definitely a couple of the standout students who were eager to learn, excited about what I had to say.
Definitely enjoy the infantry. It will suck, 100%, and you'll feel like it's the hardest.
I could see the wheels turning in their heads as I was talking to them about their goals and what they want to do with their life. I could feel the same hunger, the same drive, the same feeling I had at their age. And I didn't know what I was going to be, but I knew that I was going to fight and succeed no matter what to improve my family. Ultimately, at the end of the day, coming back right to where it all started, to the high school that I grew up in, at any point I could have given up, but through sheer willpower, I never did. It's something within everybody's control and power to have. I may have come this far, but I still have a whole lot further I'm going to go.